Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ocean Predators Unleashed, the podcast that dives deep into the fascinating world of marine predators, breaking down the research within the scientific community so you don't have to, but still be able to keep up to date with what's going on. I'm your host, Ethan, and today's episode, we explore the enigmatic, powerful killer whales, also known as the Orcanis orca, and their unexpected impact on the delicate balance of nearshore ecosystems. Our featured topic delves into a groundbreaking study that uncovers the intricate relationship between killer whales and sea otters in western Alaska. Join us as we unravel the mystery behind the sudden decline in sea otter populations attributed to this increased predation by killer whales. Now, today, the article we are breaking down is Killer Whale Predation on Sea Otters Linking Oceanic and Nearshore Ecosystems. This was released on October 16th of 1998. Now, as we explore this groundbreaking study, let's take a moment to learn about the backgrounds of some of the authors behind this research. Now, we have four authors. J.A. Estes, a renowned marine ecologist with a passion for understanding predator-prey dynamics in marine ecosystems. M.T. Tinker, whose expertise lies in marine mammal biology and conservation. T.M. Williams, a marine biologist with a focus on marine predator ecology. Now, Williams' expertise in studying the foraging behaviors of killer whales has provided crucial data for this article here, which is really important for understanding the impact on sea otter populations. Now, the study on killer whale predation on sea otters, linking oceanic and nearshore ecosystems, took place in a west central Aleutian archipelago island in western Alaska. I've never been there, but that sounds pretty cool. Now, the study focused on interactions between, obviously, the killer whales and the sea otters, and the study went on for spanning about a few years. Observations and data were collected and conducted over a few-year period of time in which the researchers took that time to track the decline that they observed in otter populations, an increase in sea urchin biomass, and the corresponding changes in kelp density and herbivory rates. Now, the long-term nature of the study allowed them to observe gradual shifts and is what's going to be able to make this a great place for me to give this information to you, audience. Now, the main premise of the article is that the decline in the sea otter populations has been due to this killer whale predation. This predator-prey dynamic has led to elevated sea urchin density, deforestation of kelp beds, and those two things are things we're going to explore as to why those are bad for sea otters as well. Essentially, the otter's keystone role of the ecosystem has been reduced because of these factors and have likely initiated anthropogenic changes in offshore oceanic ecosystems. Now, we're going to go over some of the important data that supports the article's argument regarding the predation of the killer whale on the sea otter. Now, there's been a behavioral shift. The article mentions that the first observed attack on the sea otter by killer whale was in 1991, which was followed by 9 more reported attacks. Now, these are only reported attacks. I'm sure there are more unreported attacks that are not accounted for here. Population trends. Contrasting otter population trends between areas that are accessible and inaccessible to killer whales have increased, compared to a 76% decline in open coastal environments. Predation impacts. By estimating energetic requirements of killer whales and the caloric value of sea otters, the study suggests that a single killer whale could consume 1,825 otters per year. This estimation indicates that the otter population decline could be caused by as few as just 3.7 killer whales. Now, that is amazing. The study also highlights rapid changes in the kelp forest ecosystem. which accompanies and is correlated to sea otter population declines. It mentions an 8-fold increase in sea urchin biomass, a decline in kelp density by more than a factor of 12, and an increase in kelp tissue loss to herbivory from 1.1% per day in 1991 to 47.5% per day in 1997. Now, an important ecosystem change to note for the otters, as we've talked about, is the sea kelp. And why is that sea kelp so important? Well, it plays a crucial role in the ecosystem and is really a place that otters rely on. Now, they provide habitat and shelter. Sea kelp forests provide essential habitat and shelter for sea otters. Otters rely on these kelp beds for protection from predators, rough seas, and inclement weather. The dense canopy that kelp helps to create makes it a safe and secure environment for these otters to rest, groom, and raise their young. Now, not only is it habitat and shelter, it's also a food source. These sea otters feed on these variety of marine organisms that are found in these kelp forests, which can include sea urchins, crabs, snails, and other invertebrates. These forests support a diverse array of prey species that are essential for these otters' diets and survivals. I'm sure you can imagine with the depletion of these kelp beds, how otters have lost their homes and their eating grounds. Being a place as their home, it's a place for massive reproduction and rest. Female otters may also wrap themselves in kelp to keep their pups secure as they forage for food. And beyond just for the sea otters, they're considered a keystone species in these kelp forest ecosystems. By preying on herbivores like sea urchins, the otters help maintain the diversity of the kelp forest, because I think sometimes these sea urchins can be predatory towards other species that could be found in these seabeds. So in a way, these kelp beds are the home for these otters, providing shelter and food and a place for rest, but at the same time the otters maintain that home, according to the article. Now we're going to talk a little bit about sea urchins. We've already talked a little bit about how they can be invasive, but they do have positive and negative impacts on the sea otters, depending on your ecological context. So as far as some of the positives, sea urchins are a natural part of some of the diet for sea otters. The otters are known to feed on these sea urchins along with other marine invertebrates found in these kelp forests. But as far as negatives, sea urchins, when the sea otter populations decline or are absent from an area, sea urchins populations tend to increase in an unchecked manner, and this overabundance really kind of leads to an overgrazing of the kelp forest and takes damage to their homes. Obviously ecological balance is a very important factor, and sea otters play a crucial role in maintaining the balance of the kelp forest ecosystems by preying on the sea urchins. But if there are too many sea urchins and not enough otters, that balance cannot stay there. It's these factors such as the loss of the kelp, increase in sea urchins, and that relationship of how sea urchins affect the kelp beds makes sea otters more vulnerable, therefore causing these killer whales to become more predatory and decrease the sea otter populations. Loss of kelp forests and increase in sea urchin populations alter the availability of prey, therefore making it harder for these sea otters to sustain their own life, and making it and when they're more vulnerable, it makes it easier for the killer whales to come in and take over and eat the sea otters. To conclude, The research that we've seen demonstrates how changes in predator-prey dynamics can have cascading effects on an ecosystem structure and function. When certain things such as global warming, increased temperatures of water, or adversely affect these kelp beds, it's causing a chain reaction. Adversity for the kelp beds is an absolute adversity for the sea otters. And adversity for the sea otters means that while these killer whales have been coexisting with sea otters for quite some time, lack of opportunity and safety for the otters makes their lives extremely endangered and has caused for a imbalance of whales to sea otters now. This causes great implication for conservation, which is a very important matter. When we realize the interconnectedness of these species, conservation strategies must be tailored to address these complex problems. There are long-term ecological effects to this. It greatly affects what species can inhabit the area and sustain the ecosystem. To conclude, we got to feel for our otters here, and we got to do everything we can to regulate these water temperatures. The article really concludes the stress and the importance of considering the intricate connections between these species and how what we do sometimes really does have an impact while we might not know it. And I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in to Oceanic Predators Unleashed. I'm your host, Ethan Sicca, and this has been a great podcast, and I'd like to sign off. We have new episodes coming out every Tuesday, and I look forward to talking to you next week. Thank you.